Hello, it's Amy with Just a Little Ink. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! And today I'm sharing some fun things with the Sunflower 3D embossing folder. It's fun. If you've seen some of my videos earlier, I've been playing around and it's just a ton of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and show you here. I kind of got going and then forgot I didn't hit record, and so that's an issue when you're trying to record things. So the 3D embossing folder and the right words are the products I'm going to be using, and I'm using crumb cake cardstock. I had said that you want a 6-inch piece by 8.5. You probably could get by with 5.5 if you didn't want to use a full, a little over a full sheet, or a half a sheet, excuse me. So you're going to place that in your folder. You want the Stampin' Up! Logo facing you. That's an important tip. Stick it all the way in. It'll have just a little edge that doesn't get embossed. Put it on your plate 1, which is just the base without that other little tab. You're going to place your number 4, which is the gray plate, on top. And you'll run it through our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. That's the full machine. And when you do that, you end up with this. You end up, so this is a little edge. I don't know if you can kind of see it here. It's kind of the edge. That is the section that doesn't get embossed, but it comes through and it's really pretty this way. And I've got a couple ideas of some things I'm going to share later, but I'm going to make a couple different cards because this makes a lot, and you're actually going to end up with some pieces left over even. But you want another little piece of crumb cake that is cut 3 by 2, and I went ahead and cut one 3 by 3 so I have enough for a banner, because you have some options. If you use our Stylish Shapes dies, which is very, very universal, great kind of basic die set. If you had one die set you were going to buy, this is the one I would suggest because it's so useful with so many things. But I cut from this little skinny one a banner so that we can cut it. And so I did that from this piece. And I wanted a layer piece, and so I'm going to use a piece that is just a slightly bigger than a quarter sheet, so 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, so one little mark beyond that 4-inch mark, and one little tick beyond the 5 1/4, and that's going to layer. And then I'm going to use another piece, just a half a sheet of crumb cake, 8.5 by 5.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. And again, that might be why you want to just make this at 8.5 by 5.5, because then you'd use one full sheet. So depending on kind of how conservative you would like to be. And then I've got a piece of our early espresso that's a half sheet, 8.5 by 5.5, because we're going to have more things we're going to do. And I've got some embossing powder and some gems and all kinds of different things. But the tip is that I'm going to be using Stampin' blends to color. And I wanted to kind of share the how. So we don't have early espresso Stampin' blends, but I'm using one of our tones, which are for skin tones, but there's so many other things you can use them for. This one is the SU100. I'll put a link in the description of the video and make sure that there's a link onto the Facebook page below on this video for the different products that I'm using. But I'm going to come in, and I'm just going to start on this one just because it's easier. You kind of go along the areas where it's raised up, and I'm following along, and you have to keep in mind that Stampin' blends blend, and so they do move. You don't need to push hard, and you don't want to hold it on the paper very long, because if you do, it'll bleed all beyond where you want it. So I'm just allowing it to kind of pick up from the center of the sunflower. And what I found, our Darling Duckling, which is a new in color, and then I can just come in. Now that I've got my edge, I can just start filling in. This is pretty heavy on what it uses of the ink because it's got all those nubs, and I prefer using the nub because, you know, all of our Stampin' blends have two tips. One is the nub, which is what I usually use, and one is a brush tip, and you'll get a whole lot more ink out of that one. But I'm just going to color into here, and I'm only doing this one flower because we did some ahead of time. But it made a great sunflower center. Now, you can use lots of other colors, and I'm going to show you one that used some different colors. Grab into here, and like so. So that was my center. And then I used Darling Duckling, and do I have the dark and the light? This is the light. I want to come in with the dark. I'm going to come in. What I found was that it changes color with it being in, on the crumb cake, and it gives it a really pretty golden color. Because when I tried to layer with Darling Duckling, it was not the right color, and so it's just kind of interesting how. And you'll start seeing it here. It looks like one color until it dries. So all I'm doing is coming along closest to the center with the dark, and I'm not trying to be neat with it. And then I'm just going to come and drag some, just a little bit into those areas. And yep, if you're doing the whole sheet, which I've done, it takes a little bit of time, but it has a great result. So I'm going to like that. I'm going to put that one away. And then I'll come in and grab, and I'm going to come closer then, because again, these blend. So I'm going to come closer to my center. And then you can come across. And so I'm not going to do the whole thing. I just want to kind of give you the idea of what I'm doing. And I'll finish this later. But then you'll come in and you'll grab up and where the areas are raised for those flower petals is the only place that I'm worried about coloring. And so I'm coming up and grabbing it like so. And then just come through, blend it out. Again, it's one of these things that's, you just grab and go and pull it down. And then it'll dry brighter than what you're seeing here. Then I'm using Mossy Meadow for the leaves and some of the other places. I'm going to come up, well, let's see, we got one here. I'm going to come up. You got to be real careful with what you're touching, but you barely touch and the ink will bleed out a little bit beyond. So coming up to, and I'm going to come around the things I don't want to color in green. And may have gotten a little further over there, but for the purposes that we're doing, this will be fine. So I'm going to come in and go around my sunflower petals where I've got that leaf. And then I can start filling it in. So the careful part is what's near other colors that you're going to be using and other shapes. So your leaves versus your flower petals. But then this, and then you can straighten it up a little bit if you need to. But when you're done, so those are the three colors, you can use the lights and the darks of Mossy Meadow as well. But when you're done, this is what you end up with. So I've done the whole sheet. I didn't tell you earlier, I'm also using something that you can't get yet, but come September, the Peace on Earth dies. I've used these, this last month. This particular die of the leaves I'm going to be using in the design I'm doing on one of the cards. So we're going to start with this particular one first, and that one's the easy one. I'm going to get out my paper trimmer and set my stamp set out of the way, and I'm going to cut from this piece, turn it around. I'm going to cut from this piece one that is 4 inches. I think I still leaves me, oh yeah, plenty. So I'm gonna cut one that's, nope, I wanna go a different way. I want that one from here, and if I do 5 1/4, what does that leave me? I've got to kind of look here. So I'm going to turn it around, give me an eyeball figure here. That give me enough of that? Yes. So I'm going to cut, you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. I'm going to cut it up at 5 1/4. I'll set this piece aside, and then I'm going to turn it because I'm going to come just a little higher than 4 so that I can grab, actually I'm going to come this way, I'm going to grab just a sliver off here because that's the part that's a little bit beyond. So then we'll come at 4 inches. And that, we have this extra piece here as well. So this piece, we're going to go ahead and layer onto our piece of Mossy Meadow. So let me grab my Stampin' seal. And I want a decent amount of it on here because this is embossed. Sometimes I just choose to use our mono adhesive, multi-purpose liquid glue. So this is just a little bit of reveal, kind of sets it off from the crumb cake. Get a nice, looks like I got a little bit of an edge. Get my paper snips out here. Just so you know, paper snips sold out with the manufacturer that Stampin' Up! Has gotten it from, quit manufacturing them, and so they are looking at other options, but for the moment, there are no more paper snips. So hopefully if you've got yours, you're keeping them sharp and taking care of them, and they're looking for hopefully the same type scissor. That they've been a great scissor for years. So I'm folding my cardstock in half. Again, this one's a super simple card. I'm not trying to make it fancy necessarily, but just kind of sharing with you some different ways that you can use this folder. So I really liked this option. And so then I'm going to take my embossed banner and, ooh, as I scooted it around, and the happy birthday from The Right Words. Again, this stamp set is found online. It's in our online exclusives. I'm going to make sure that I've got my, line it up on a straight edge and see how we do, because this is red rubber. So, okay, and then I've got some Mossy Meadow ink. And get it inked up hopefully nicely, and we'll see how well I do on centering. Horrible. All right, we'll clean that in a little bit. So then this will go, and I'm going to put it up on dimensionals. And I just have some little corners here, so we'll just use those. I use every piece of my Stampin' dimensionals. So there we go, like so. You can use as many or as few as you want. And then, let me get those pieces out of the way. So then it's a matter of deciding, where do I want this to come in at? Do I want it up here? Do I want it over here? Do I want it up here? I kind of like it here. So I kind of want it over here. And then a couple times we're going to use the tiny bee trinkets. And for those, you either need some glue, some multi-purpose liquid glue. Let me find where I hid my mini glue dots. That's what I'm going to choose to use. So I'm going to turn this where I've got a glue dot exposed, It may be a little challenged, but we're going to try it. So I'm going to stick it to my glue dot. It's when I wished they were almost more tiny. You ever feel that way? Then I can, well, I thought I was pulling it off. You know what? It may not be our day. I'm going to scoot over here, scoot it up a little bit so that hopefully it picks it up. So I find it's best to line it up onto my glue dot and then pull it off of. So we'll see how well we do here. We're going to try this one this way. I want a couple bees to be on my sunflowers. And so, again, I'm going to push these so that it's not circular. I want a little bit more squashed. And then my bee should fit on there a lot easier. I have an idea of, well, I might do the third one here. Sometimes you guys get it where I'm kind of learning some stuff. I like 3s. You probably know that, but I think on this one we're only going to do 2. So I'm going to stick it up at the top. Okay, so we'll set this aside. And then on the inside, I could easily, I'll put these away so I don't spill them everywhere. On the inside, you could choose to put another layer, but the nice thing about crumb cake is that you don't have to. It's kind of like the same thing with basic white. If you do a basic white thick, that you can get away with not, let's see if this lines up yet. You can get away with not having another layer, which keeps the weight down on our cards. And with prices of stamps going up this week, you know, every little bit helps. So I'm going to see if this is good. We're going to just jump into it. So I'm going to line it up and just put it on the inside. You could choose to do, I think it's not a bad option. Go ahead and shut this. So I'm going to grab this piece that I had a little extra of, and we'll go ahead and just take a 1/2 inch and come across. And then I only want it to be 4 inches. So we have all these little strips of stuff, but that's okay. And I'll grab out my Stampin' seal again on the back, and this will decorate the inside. So this one is a simple card. So we're just going to come along here. You could put a second one at the top. So you have all kinds of different options. So just a little bit. Stampin' seal gives you just a teeny bit of wiggle for a few seconds, and then it's very permanent. So this is card number 1. Super simple. Takes time to color, but isn't that beautiful? So then the second card, and while I'm here and kind of mentioning my Just a Little Ink, you can order 24/7 from my Stampin' Up website, justalittleink.stampinup.net. And if you don't currently have a Stampin' Up demonstrator, I would love to be your demonstrator. I hope I've inspired you. That is my goal with my videos. I like to inspire not only my current customers, but other demonstrators and those who find me online. This video will be posted on my YouTube channel, which is Just a Little Ink. And so let me get this cleaned up and get my happy birthday cleaned up. And put those away. And I'm going to show you my next card idea that I came up with. And this one, when I'm done, I'll have to kind of get up and move to share with you the, let me get this lined up on here now while I'm thinking about it. I created a card for a team member's birthday. And so, Kathy, if you see it here, I apologize that you're catching it here first. But what I did is I used an idea from our Creativity Now, which was a demonstrator only online event. So I'm going to fold this early espresso cardstock in half along that score line. Okay. And then I want a piece from my leftover embossed section. I want a piece that is 3.5 inches long. We're going to come along here because this is the section I trimmed a little on. So I want 3.5 inches. So again, we're going to have lots of little pieces we can do something else with. And I didn't plan everything on those regards. So then I end up needing a piece that's then 2¼ inches. And you're going to kind of see what I'm referring to here. But I'm going to start cutting at 3/4 inch. So I want 3/4 inch strips. So I'm going to keep this, move it over. I want a second 3/4 inch. I'm only needing 3 of these. And then a third one. I know some people, some stampers are great stamping standing up. I don't do that as well. So I'm going to set this aside. So these 3 I need. I'm going to kind of keep them in the order that I had them, although it's easy to find. And I'm going to start layering here. So I'm going to have 2 of them that are set here. Then I want to decide how far down am I going to stick this other one, because I want to kind of get an idea. So what helps for me is to take out my little pencil, which I keep one in my stamping stuff. If you're not one of those who keeps a pencil, you want to do that. I'm going to keep just a light pencil mark kind of between here and here. Okay, then I can set those aside again. That helps me know where I'm going to be stamping. So I'm going to heat emboss on this one. So I'm going to take my little Stampin' buddy, so my embossing buddy, to make sure that I don't have finger oils that are going to cause embossing powder to stick. So I'm going to go across there, and hopefully I'll still see where my pencil marks are. Shouldn't have marked them off. Sometimes you're like, oh boy, that didn't work real well. But I think I can still see them. And then I'm going to grab, so I've got the to celebrate someone worth, or to someone worth celebrating every single day. And I'm going to get out some Versamark ink. Ink it up, get it well, and I might get in the camera a little bit. Hopefully it won't be too bad. Thank goodness I really did mark that where I can't see it. So we're going to hope that we've got it right. I'm going to keep my block straight. My words are not straight. And I'm going to kind of come here. We're just going to wing it and hope we got it great. So then we'll put this away. And then I pulled out a scrap piece of paper. It's my preferred way. And then I've got the Wow metallic gold. I'm going to sprinkle it on here. I'm going to spread around a little, tap. Hopefully my fan isn't going crazy. And I see a little mark of, oh, I've got another one around here, but I'm going to use the brush off because it looks like I caught a little edge. So I'm going to tap. Anytime you've got powder before you heat, you can move and take it off. Once you heat, it's going to be stuck. So you don't want to wait. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to make a cone and put my powder back in the bottle. That's my preferred way. I know we sell in the additions kit, which is what gets you the tweezers and the brush and the embossing buddy. We carry some things that help. So then I'm going to take my heat tool. It's going to get noisy for just a moment here. And I've got it, it's 2 levels, one just dries and one heats your embossing powder. And when it gets shiny, you'll know you're done. And hopefully we didn't too much there. There we go. It's not too bad. Then I'm going to go ahead and assemble. And so I'm going to get my Stampin' seal. And something here. I'm going to lay it on the underneath. And this is the reason I didn't want to put any down first. So I want a similar reveal on both sides. Then I'm going to take the section above, grab it here, and come above it, again having an even reveal on both sides, here and here. Okay, and then put the top piece on. And we're not done yet. You could be, depends on how simple you want your card to be. So I'm coming up. Just want a small little space between these. Okay, so that is on the front. Then I told you that from this piece, I cut some of my little flourish, I don't know what you call these, leaves. And then I pulled out, so we got, one of them I'm going to leave the way it is. One of them I want to blend. One of them I want to blend with some Mossy Meadow to make it a darker color. So I'm going to come in, just lay it on a piece of scrap paper and blend a little bit. I'll turn it around. We did all of this on a card during our Creativity Now, but I really liked how it ended up looking even on this card. So real simple. You don't have, you can go more if you want. And then I'm going to pull out my multi-purpose liquid glue, and I have it in a little bottle that is much more fine-tuned. And so I'm going to put just a few dots, if I can get it flowing from here. There we go. And I don't have to worry about if it's too many places, but I don't want it to bleed glue everywhere. So I'm going to kind of come and tap, because I'm only taking a second. I'm not going to worry too much here. Then I'm going to layer one here, press and hold a second, and then I'll do the same thing with the one that I had added a little bit of color. Super, super simple. And I didn't grab an inside basic white, so I'm not going to worry about that for this video's purposes, but you know that you could add, obviously, insides and say happy birthday. So then I'm just kind of overlapping them a little bit. Ooh, and hopefully not grabbing them back up with my finger. I think I had some adhesive on it. Okay, so here we go. And then to finish off, I'm going to do two things. One, I've got a piece of linen thread, and I'm going to go ahead and just tie a simple little bow. As long as the fingers cooperate, we can do that. So just grab some thread. I don't know how much, probably 10 inches or so would be plenty. You might even be able to do it with 8. So like so, tighten it up. Go ahead and snip off the excess, and then we can trim. And then I'm going to again take, and this time we're just going to use the liquid glue, and we'll see if that's enough. So I'm going to put a little dot here, or a lot of dot, and throw my bow on there. The good news is that liquid glue, this multi-purpose liquid glue, I can't even talk today, it does dry clear. So that's the good news. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab again some of these little bees, and I'm going to stick one here. I'm going to grab my take your pick tool, which is probably what I should have used earlier. Take pick tool, hold on to it. I'm going to stick one here. And that works great if you can let it go of it. Okay, it's going to have to dry. And then, I think we should have two of them. What do you think? I think I'm going to stick one over here. Since I was a little wider, whoops, a little wider with my my words than I was thinking. So that works. There we go. And kind of move it around. Again, like I said, the glue dries clear, which is helpful. So, what do you think? I'm going to pull it back up here so you can kind of see what this one looks like. So I'm going to take off my microphone. I'm going to go ahead and just go to the demonstration for a moment. That allows me to let you see the card. So this is the one I had done earlier, where I had done in Blackberry Bliss. And so you can kind of see here, pull off my paper trimmer. I had done one where I'd played around with Blackberry Bliss and Pecan Pie and Old Olive. And then I started playing down here so you can see, kind of get ideas, but you can use them different sections for different things. So this was one, and then I embossed in the white embossing powder, and I used some of our brass butterflies, which are really pretty. But this was the original one that we had done at Creativity Now, using again the peaceful, have it underneath stuff. Sometimes that makes it fun. Da, 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 da. You know how that goes, right? Peace on earth. So fun stuff. But I also wanted to share, I played around and I had done a birthday card where you took just the crumb cake. This was my original one. I didn't like it as much, but I do still like it. I used embossing or Versamark and a sponge dauber to just go into the centers, and then I used the copper embossing folder, or excuse me, embossing powder. I also used, this is from, I can't think of the name of it. It just came out in our online exclusives, coordinates with last month's paper pumpkin kit. And then this is some of the textured metallic paper. So that has the copper background. So with all of that, thanks again for joining me. I hope that you've enjoyed this. Please like, share, comment. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'd appreciate you doing so. And I love to see the creations you come up with. So if you've used this folder and you've used any of these techniques I've shared, I'd love to see what you've done. So share them on my Facebook page. Just a little ink, and till next week, I will see you again. Have a great week, guys.